Good afternoon and welcome along to this special Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, number one tennis betting podcast brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown. It's the final of the men's singles at the French Open, and looking ahead to the match, the big match on Sunday, is myself, Nigel Seeley, your host, and I'm joined by our ATP Tour senior handicapper. It's Sean Calvert. Good afternoon to you, Sean. You've got a busy day today. I appreciate you coming on ahead of what promises to be a very, very interesting couple of days for subscribers here on Betting Weekly Studios, because Rory Germani has Jasmine Paolino cashed to 60-1, and the women's draw, and hopefully we can cash her by the time this drops and pull it off one of the shocks of the season and beat an Igor Swiatek. But good morning to you, Sean.
Morning.
It's probably not the final that you had hoped for yesterday. Obviously, Casper Ruud was our official pick. He got beat by Zverev.
Well, he was
but
sick,
you
wasn't
pretty
he?
much,
I mean, the poor little thing couldn't do anything.
You called the other game, well, the pair of us called it absolutely perfectly in our lean. 5 sets, only one win if it went to 5 sets, and it was that man Alcaraz who got through to his first French Open final.
Yeah, I think both. I would have that Ruud bet again, to be honest. I think it was unlucky. He won the first set, and then he started feeling ill, didn't he? He had some sort of stomach bug or something. I feel like he would have gone on to win that match, but circumstances prevented it, and you know, the other match we called correctly, 3-2, and it kind of worked out sort of as we'd hoped, or perhaps prophesised, if you want to call it that, with Alcaraz just being the stronger over the last couple of sets. Still a little bit fortunate, I think, Alcaraz to win that on the statistics. Sinner was ahead on the stats, but Alcaraz just raised his game when it matters, and Sinner put in a couple of sloppy ones. He shouldn't have been broken at least one of those occasions that he was in the last couple of sets, but. Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it, when you've got two sort of feels on a match. One of them gets beat because of ill health, and the other one wins, which you didn't have an official pick. But that's the way it goes. People often bet the leans. People often come on Twitter and say, "Always bet your leans" and stuff. So I'm sure a few people that would have had a bit of pizza money on that match would have done okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be many people who profited from the Alcaraz 5-set win that Sean edged toward there on his lean. Obviously, we made a small case for over the totals as well, which was 38.5. That would have cashed quite easy as well. The final, though, obviously sees Zverev, who comes into this final against Alcaraz. Alcaraz is bidding to win his first French Open. Zverev has made his second major final after that epic match back in the US Open. I think it was in 2020, where he should have beaten Dominic Thiem that year. He had the opportunities to win it.
Yes, he did.
Is he? You know, he's had out loads of years, problems with injuries, big injury concerns. Is he mentally now up for the challenge ahead? Because that was always the thing that was thrown at Zverev, his mental attitude. He had the game, but did he have it in the head?
He said after the match against Ruud last night, he said he wasn't mature enough to win a major on that occasion that you're talking about. I still don't think he says the right things, but honestly, I think if push comes to shove, well, we might see on Sunday, because I think if he's leading, he's got a chance to close it out. I think we'll see those nerves come in. For me, he's the kind of guy that does struggle mentally to close matches out, or went in to handle pressure situations. I go back to that Rome match against Tablo, where he was absolutely nowhere, even though he managed to turn it around eventually and win the match. He started that very, very nervously. I think there'll be a lot of nerves in this final. We'll probably come on to that in a minute, but is he mature enough to win a major? He says he is. We'll see. I personally, I'm holding some fairly severe doubts about whether Zverev could do it if push came to shove against someone like Alcaraz.
For a positive for Zverev, obviously he's got this court action that was due and now dropped. The case has been dropped. He's been settled out of court. That may help his mental strength a little bit. You know, his mind would be focused on that rather than something off the court. So I was thinking that might be a positive for Zverev bettors.
You could look at it either way. You could look at it the other way and say that's been distracting him. So he's got something else to think about rather than tennis. If he's just purely focusing, overthinking a match, you know, that's not good for him either, I don't think. We'll see. But I'm not convinced that Zverev is capable of closing out a situation to win a major, especially if it's tight against someone like Alcaraz. If you are looking for an in-play bet, I would certainly be inclined, if that match went that way, Zverev's ahead, maybe up a break in a fifth or something like that, I'd be inclined to get on Alcaraz, and I could certainly see some wobbles coming from the Zverev side. He's done it so often.
Let's look at the Alcaraz point of view. He's come in with a bit of an injury concern. We did say at the start of the tournament that of the leading contenders, if he sort of hit a run, he could be the one that would come through. We fancied him ahead of all the leading contenders, the Sinners and the Djokovic as well. He's still wearing that strapping. Hasn't really given him too many concerns. But again, that would be a worry for me if I was playing at 2.78. Hasn't shown any signs yet, but I expect this to be quite long, and I think it'll be a battle on the back of a 5-set battle as well against Sinner. Would you be a little bit worried about that?
I wouldn't be worried about his arm. I think that's fine. I don't think that's a problem. I would be worried about his mental state, because again, in the Sinner match, if people didn't see it yesterday, there was all sorts going on there, wasn't it? It was a peculiar match. Sinner seemed like he was struggling with sort of cramps or arm problems at one stage, and then that seemed to have an effect on Alcaraz, who suddenly stopped doing what he was doing and ended up losing the set he should have won. But Alcaraz then talked about having the cramps again, like we talked about in the show the other day when he had that match against Djokovic in the semi-finals a couple of years ago, and he had that big problem with the cramps because of he'd worked himself up into such a state. And again, that seemed to be the case, or he was implying that was the case against Sinner as well. So I think this final is going to be very, very nervy. I wouldn't be worried about Alcaraz's physicality. That arm does seem fine from what I've seen, but there's going to be some nerves here for sure.
Yeah, I'm only 21 years of age. We forget that about Alcaraz. He's just a young lad going through his third major. He's obviously won the US Open, won Wimbledon, now looking for the French Open, the one that everyone expected him to win. The pressure was always on him to win this one first.
I think that's
now
the
got
problem.
An opportunity to win it.
I think that's the problem, because he's seen as almost, if you want to say, the new Nadal, Spaniard, clay, obviously a big favourite at the clay major. And I think that's probably playing in his mind, because that issue didn't seem to take place at Wimbledon, did it, or the US Open? He didn't seem to have that issue with the cramps and working himself up into that sort of state. Maybe that's because he wasn't expected necessarily to win those matches. I think a lot of people do expect him to win the French Open multiple times, and that perhaps is why that issue keeps cropping up.
Let's have a look at the odds with BetRivers. Carlos Alcaraz is the heavy favourite, as you would expect. He's minus 278. Sean said there, everyone did expect him to win it. He's Spanish. The comparisons to Nadal has already started. So he's going to feel that pressure to emulate a fraction of what Nadal's done. Minus 278 here for the Spaniard, plus 225 for Alexander Zverev. The spread is 4.5, which is minus 112 for Alcaraz. Minus 110 for Zverev, receiving the 4.5, and the total 38.5 with over the underdog. It's light favourite, at minus 118, under minus 105. Head across to BetRivers. There is a whole host of different markets available on the match. I think there'll be about 60, 70 different markets. But those are some of the major ones, and the ones that we like to talk about on the show. Conditions, Sean, it's been a cold tournament. Is it any better tomorrow? Is it going to be warmer? Is it going to be anything any better? Is it the conditions going to be okay?
It was warm yesterday, in the certainly in the early match. It has got progressively warmer this second week. So, and the forecast says around about 22 and sort of partly sunny for Sunday. So I'd say similar conditions to the semi-final matches. Yeah, so warm, decent conditions for tennis.
Would that favour anybody? Is there any sort of favourites, do you think, of the conditions if it was warm? If Zverev was going to win, what conditions would he like? What would he like to do? What would be the tactic, and what would you want that? If you were making a case for Zverev, what would the perfect scenario be here?
Yeah, quick conditions for sure. I think will help Zverev. As I've said before, he doesn't like slow, heavy, damp clay. Struggled a lot in Munich. Struggled obviously here in the opening week. Should have lost to Griekspoor. But for him, I think it's how he approaches this match. He's got a tendency. His default position is to be kind of passive and push it around and kind of wait and see. That's what's kind of let him down, I think, for me. Just that attitude that he has. It's just a default position. A lot of players have it, like a Gasquet. They just like hanging back behind the baseline and sort of plying their trade from there and waiting for mistakes. And I'm just not sure that's going to get it done against someone like Alcaraz. So I think if Zverev is going to win this match, he's got to come out, take this match by the scruff of the neck. A bit like he did when he beat Alcaraz here a few years ago. He's got to come out, serve big. Obviously, the quicker conditions will help in that regard. But he's got to hit his forehand. This is all about really how he hits his forehand. A lot of the time, he's just pushing it and waiting and hoping. But for me, when Zverev's at his best, he's serving big and he's looking to attack and get on the front foot with that forehand. If he doesn't do that, I think he's in trouble.
You mentioned the head-to-head there. The head-to-head is 5-4 in favour of the German. But if you look at the clay court, it's 2-1 in favour of Alcaraz. The last time they met on the clay court was in 2023 in Madrid, which Alcaraz won very, very easy, 6-1, 6-2. And Sean touched it there. The quarter-final in the French Open in 2022, which Zverev won 3-1 in a match that had 43 games. And that's the kind of match I'm looking at here. I'm looking at, again, the total. I know we get some low totals in yesterday was a perfect example. We had a 4-set match where the totals come well under the line. We had a 5-set match where it only gradually got over because there was a lot of 6-3, 6-2 sets in those two semi-finals yesterday. I think this could be a long one. Nerves, like you say, are both players, and I think this could go deep.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at their head-to-head. I've only taken the last 7 matches because the first 2 were played in 2021 when Alcaraz was very, very young. Service points won and return points won totals heavily favours Alcaraz 106-94 in their last 7 matches, and Alcaraz has won 10% more second serve points, which shows that he's been the boss from the back of the court. But it's been a weird head-to-head because very rarely have they played well. Has both of them played well at the same time? There's been some very, very one-sided matches. A lot of that's been to do with fatigue as well, because when they played in Madrid, Zverev was absolutely dead. He'd had a 4 a.m. finish the next day. The previous day. There was another one as well. I think the US Open as well, 2023. I think Zverev, hadn't he come off the back of that 5-setter with Sinner?
Yeah.
And he was absolutely dead again. So it's been a weird head-to-head. It's not. I can't think of any of these matches where they've both played well. It's always been one guy's playing well and the other guy's really not. So it's been kind of a strange head-to-head. One bet I was thinking about is if you look at the 9 meetings that they've had, 7 of them have been under 9.5 games in set 1. And I feel like that might be interesting again at plus 110 with Bet Rivers, because, again, yesterday they both lost the opening set 6-2, didn't they? I think it was 6-2. Alcaraz started poorly against Sinner. Zverev started, as he so often does, in that wait-and-see mode that he has, which I feel won't be good enough against Alcaraz. And you could certainly see that happening again, the nervousness. I could see a really peculiar match developing here. This is why sometimes these semi-finals and finals are quite hard to bet on, because often nerves just play a part, and you don't know how much of a part it's going to play. I think your question was about the overs, wasn't it? If you look at all the sets they've played, there's only been 1, 2, 3 tie-break sets in 9 meetings. So most of the sets have been like 6-1, 6-3, 6-4, 6-2. So I would be worried about the overs for sure. 38.5, isn't it, the line?
Yeah, it's just only because in the 3 Grand Slam meetings they've had before, 2 of the 3 have cashed on the overs, and the one in the French Open. This year in the Australian Open, they cashed overs.
Yeah.
And that was with a 6-1 and a 6-3. It was a tiebreak. Because I think Zverev's in the match here. I'm not as... I'm holding an each-way voucher on Zverev at 12-1 after he won in Rome, which I thought was a little bit of value. So I've got to, and I'm not hedging. I don't like. You can't hedge at minus 278 anyway, because it's the right price.
You might want to hedge if you're serving for the match.
I would hedge in play if I had an opportunity to hedge in play. Then I would. If you took
not
the first
now,
set, then I might be not now at all. But I do think Zverev, if he serves like he did in Rome. And that is obviously it's a big if. It's a major final. We know he's got problems. But if he plays like he does in Rome, you got to remember he's on a 12-match winning streak on the clay.
He's been pretty lucky though. Some of these he's been very, very lucky. Greek Spore, obviously. Rune.
Yeah, but sometimes you all have a little bit of luck on your way to win a tournament. You want to get through a little bit lucky sometimes. And
we see it all the time.
Luck along the way. Yeah, I just got this feeling this isn't going to be as one-sided as the odds suggest because of the reasons you said there. I think this could go deep. Now, I just thought that, but from experience in the last couple of days with these semi-finals where I've played over and both, lost one and won one, I think you might want to be betting the over the sets. I think that's the best strategy if you're looking at the over games here. Instead of the over games, look for the over, the match to go to 5 sets or over 3.5 sets. You're not going to get much money for over 3.5 sets, but maybe over 4.5 sets in the 5th set, because I think this could go all the way. I really do. I think it's going to be tight. And nerves are going to play a really, really big part in that.
Massive,
the match starts at 9 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow, so nice time on a Sunday morning to get up, have a bit of breakfast, have a bet on the Bet Rivers website, watch the match on your tablet or your mobile device. You can watch live and bet live with Bet Rivers. So if we're going to have an official pick here, Sean, are we just going to just have a lean on the unders in set one, or is there any other markets that have caught your attention?
I've highlighted 3 markets that I think will be of interest if you're having a bet on this match. I think this is a very difficult match to bet on because of the intangibles about the nerves, and there could be cramps and all sorts of things going on here. But the one I just mentioned earlier, I think is perhaps the one I like the most, which is under 9.5 games, plus 110 with Bet Rivers. That is, I think that's decent. Bearing in mind, I feel like it's going to be a nervy one. Probably go to a tiebreak now that I've said that. But the way that these guys have both started, I think that's their matches recently. The big matches, I think there's going to be an awful lot of nerves in that first set. Alcaraz total player games also interests me. Over 20.5 player games, which basically means Alcaraz to win the match, but not easily. Obviously, it can't be straight sets, I don't think, in that, can it? 7-14? Well, I suppose it could if they all went to 7, but if it all went to 7, like 7-6, 7, that's pretty unlikely, though, isn't it? So that kind of allows for Zverev to take a set, or maybe 2 sets, but Alcaraz ultimately winning. That's 1.82 minus 122, which I feel is obviously far better than the money line, which is what, minus 278. I certainly wouldn't be anywhere near that. I feel like that money line is pretty short, bearing in mind that Zverev has had quite a lot of success against Alcaraz in the past. I certainly wouldn't be fancying that minus 278, but I think Alcaraz will get over the line. How easily, I'm not entirely sure, but that market is interesting, over 20.5 Alcaraz player games. And also, if you want a bigger price, I feel like Alcaraz to win it maybe 3-1, plus 250 with Bet Rivers. I think that's also a market that you could look at. So those are the three markets there I'd be interested in if I was having a bet on this match. But this is a very, very difficult one with a lot of intangibles.
It's definitely another one that lends itself to in-play betting. So remember, Bet Rivers were betting all the way through this match in play.
Bigger price. Sorry, mate. I think you definitely get a bigger price than minus 278 on Alcaraz in play. I'd be amazed if you didn't. So if you are an Alcaraz, in play is probably better than now on the money line.
Yep, and Bet Rivers, the last chance to get the French Open in-play bet insurance with Bet Rivers. Your last chance for that. Each day of the French Open, this is obviously the final day at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If your first French Open in-play wager loses, you will get a bonus back equal to 50% of your bet. Good on your first in-play bet each day of Roland-Garros. Minimum odds of minus 150 or longer. Good for up to $25 back in bonus wagers. See the Bet Rivers app for full details. That's the last chance to get that French Open in-play bet insurance offer with Bet Rivers. So that is the final. Before we go, let's have a look at what's coming up here. We're plus 776 units on the year so far. We're a very, very small negative on the tournament of the French Open. But thank you very much. But if you follow those leans, you'll be making 27, 30 points. Yeah. It's very, very easy. The leans have been smashing it in the official picks. Very, very small, negative, very tiny behind. We've got loads of action coming your way here on the Bet Rivers on the Betting Weekly Studios. We have the Euro 2024 Football Championship starting on Friday, and from Monday all the content will be recording and be dropping all next week. So loads and loads of content coming your way on Euro 2024. And just under a month from now, it's the Wimbledon Championships, and the grass season starts. We go strictly from France straight into the grass season this week, and myself and Sean will be back on Sunday looking at the action in, where are you, Hertogenbosch and Stuttgart. Are we this week?
Yep. 2 grass court tournaments. Been to both of them. Very nice tournaments.
Yeah, all that to come. So there's going to be a summer of sporting action here on the soccer and also on the tennis. Remember, there's a few ways to follow us. Subscribe to Betting Weekly Studios. And again, thank you very much for everyone who subscribed during this French Open. The numbers and the subscribers have been insane. Thank you very much for everybody who's joined during this tournament. If you have any questions for us, please put it in the comment section. We're happy to answer any questions you have, and look forward to seeing you all and joining us again throughout the summer. You can download this podcast, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. We are usually back every Sunday, Tuesday and Wednesday on the ATP Tour, and obviously we do more when there's majors. So if you're new and you want to know when we come back, it's Sunday, Tuesday and Wednesday. And you can follow us on our socials at Because We Win on Instagram and on Twitter. There's extra content on Instagram and lots of stuff coming your way again on Euro 2024 and on Wimbledon. Okay, so that's it. 3 leans. We're expecting a nervy match. A long match, not necessarily long in terms of total games, but could be long in terms of sets numbers. Sean is thinking that Carlos Alcaraz will probably edge it in the end. I'm hoping that Zverev gets the job done and serves like he did in Rome. If he does, I think he's got a great chance here. But it will be edgy. It's all going to be nervy. Enjoy the tennis, and we'll be back again on Sunday where we have the grass action, and I'm sure my hay fever will be even worse then. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you all again very soon.